Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship. We meet every Sabbath in St. Paul, Minnesota, other than right now during the COVID-19 timeframe. And so please don't join us. Please don't show up anytime soon until we announce that we're open again. The main thing is my videos are about the seals in most cases. I'm an expert on the seals. I discuss them mostly. I rarely ever talk about the sixth seal because there aren't many signs. But we have a sign today, and so I'd like you to discuss that with me and see what you think. So, the United States government, and especially NORAD, has come out recently and said to defend against this pandemic of COVID-19, that all these military people are leaders of the Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD. So that's North American Aerospace Defense Command. Okay, that's NORAD. And NORTHCOM are all going to the Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado, and they're going to, it's Colorado Springs basically, and they're going underground. This doesn't make sense though, people. This is a sixth seal sign, no doubt about it. But you don't go underground for a virus. I mean, that would make it worse. You would want vitamin D and you would want fresh air. So I believe there's another reason for them going underground. And so the Pentagon has ordered essential staff to go deep underground, and I think there are other reasons for it. So let's look at those reasons and let's discuss it, and let's discuss it in light of the sixth seal. So I'm going to take you through most of the seals today and explain those. Okay, so could it be that North Korea is forcing this? North Korea just fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles the other day here on Sunday, so that would have been late in March. And this is from Al Jazeera. This is bad timing, obviously, but is this the reason why they went underground? No. No, North Korea is always threatening us. There's just no doubt about that. So the next sign after that is we've got riots. They're going to happen at some point in time. I've been talking to friends about this, and it seems as though the riots are going to hit eventually. They're already hitting worldwide. And so we have precog abilities now. This interesting guy, Jaron Lanier, has come up with ways to predict, it's precogging, 3 to 5 days in advance before we have social violence. And so it's interesting. The CIA has already developed a program with him. So that can't be it, can it? Well, then why are all the retailers boarding up in the wealthiest parts of town? Well, it's because they know something's coming. And so civil unrest is due. That could be the reason why NORAD is going underground, but I think there is another reason, and I'm going to get to that as we get through the sixth seal. So this is from the Organic Prepper, and they're saying it's going to happen. People are stealing food already across Europe. They're organizing raids on supermarkets. There will be assaults against our homes and against our food supplies and things like that. So don't think for a second that it won't happen here. This is according to the Organic Prepper. And I tend to agree with them. I have some friends that are doing armed security right now, and they claim it's right on the edge. Right on the edge. People are frustrated right now, and it'll just get worse. So now let's go through the sixth seal, and let's spend a few seconds. These are somebody's ideas of what they are, but let's go through the verses real quick, just so you can see. This is Revelation 6, 12 through, say, 15. And so when he opened the sixth seal, I looked, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth, and the full moon became like blood, and the stars of the sky fell to the earth as a fig tree sheds winter fruit that's shaken by a gale. So we've got the earthquake, the sun, the blood red moon. We've seen that before. And then the stars fell. Okay, interesting. And so we've got other cases you can see on the left-hand side of where it sounds similar to, say, Matthew 24 and Isaiah 13. And I'll go through 13 and 24 and 34. A little bit like Ezekiel. It sounds like Joel, my namesake. And so then on the right-hand side, it goes through the seals, and this is this person's interpretation of how things work during the sixth and seventh seals. And they're obviously a rapture type person, so it's just interesting to see their description of how things work. What I try to do every time that I do a video is not twist the Bible to give you real prophecy, and that's hard to do right now with the modern prophets. They're so horrific right now. Most of the good ones are dead. And then news. What's real news and what's fake news? So I found a news source. This is interesting. I don't agree with him on much other stuff, but I do agree on his timing of the seals and the trumpets and the bowls. So this is a very wonderful picture from him that describes the Great Tribulation. And so he believes that the seals occur beforehand, like birth pangs. So he's agreeing with George Ladd, who states they are not a part of the Great Tribulation itself, but a preparatory and preliminary to the Great Tribulation. It is a very Hebraic way of thinking to tell a story and then retell it. So this is very interesting, and he's comparing it to Genesis 1 and 2. So this website is called evidenceunseen.com, and I like it. I like it a lot. So let's go through his descriptions and see if he's agreeing with me, and he is, obviously. He's saying Revelation 6 sounds a lot like Matthew 24. So he's saying in Revelation 6:4, where you have the Machaira sword on the red horse, the rider on that. And so that's a shorter sword. It's a great Machaira sword, and it's designed just to be general warfare. And if you look at Matthew 24:6-7, he talks about war, polemos in that case. Then Revelation 6:6 talks about the third seal, and that's famine. And Matthew 24:7 talks about famines. It's limos in that case. It doesn't say limos or limo in Revelation 6:6. It does eventually in 6:8. But still, it's very similar. It's the same type of description. Oh, once again, the name of the author is James Rochefort that I'm citing. And he's been an author in many different cases, and he's from Ohio, I believe it is. He's a PhD and a rather smart fellow. I compliment him on his analysis. And there's the website up above, too. So then moving on to the third sign, which is death. That's Thanatos in Revelation 6:8. And that's one of the four, the big four from Revelation 6:8, the fourth seal. And he cites it there in Matthew 24:7-9 as a birth pang. Continuing on, there's a picture of him down in the lower right-hand corner. He's saying the fifth seal is Revelation 6:9-11, which is basically about the martyrdom. The saints are martyred. And he's citing that's Matthew 24:9 and then 16-22. So you should expect martyrdom to come at some point in time. And he's matching it up, seals with Matthew 24. So Yeshua's talking to Matthew 24. John is describing what Yeshua told him to describe in Revelation 6. Then 6:12 is the sun and moon are darkened, and that's the sixth seal, and that's in Matthew 24:29. The sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give you its light. And then to finish things out, the stars falling, that's Revelation 6:12-14, and that's Matthew 24:29. And you will see the power of heavens will be shaken. And then also 6:15-17, divine judgment is going to come. And so he cited the fig tree, which is interesting from Matthew 24. And the figs are like the figs are basically cast forth from the tree during an untimely point, and that's what's going to be driving, I believe, NORAD underground. So that's once again James Rochefort, and I like what he did with that. So I believe the seal of one opened up in 1967. I can't time date stamp that one. But it just seems as though when Moshe Dayan handed back the Temple Mount, that kicked off the fall of Western civilization. And I'm going by Zechariah 6 directions. So those are the birth pangs. And then the next birth pang is Seal 2, which is 9/11, which kicked off the war part 2 of George Bush. Whether George Sr. or Jr., Seal 2 kicked it off east of Jerusalem and Iraq, and then all the nations around there and just kicked the hornet's nest. Seal 3, I was part of that prophecy, and that was Hurricane Sandy, occurred on October 31st, and then you saw basically, if you want to go back and verify it, look at 1 Kings 12, and then 13 for that matter too. But you'll see the signs from seal number 3, the divided nation and everything like that with Jeroboam and Rehoboam. That was 2012. Seal 4, we're seeing the signs of it right now. We've really only seen one of the 4, which is biowarfare, which is the upper left-hand corner. And Dean Koontz wrote the book, The Eyes of Darkness, about Wuhan 400. Well, that is 1/4 of what Seal 4 is. So Seal 4 is the supernatural sword, which is that long Ramphea sword. I'm arguing in my last video, and I'll be arguing in the future here, that I think you may see a green sword-like comet over the skies, and that might be Comet Atlas. If it happens, if it isn't Atlas, it might be another one later on. But I'm seeing, based on historic narratives, that we have had these comets show up, physically noticeable. Now, they have stopped, they have ceased during the age of science and reason, but they occurred for thousands of years, and the Chinese listed them and showed, drew pictures about them and really described them very well. And then also other nations did too. So we have tons of history about these comets that hang as judgment swords over the nations. Drought is part of this, so that's limo, and that is pestilence, drought, things like that. Then death is thanatos, and then once again biological warfare seems to be that case. It usually is animal attacks, but in this case, therion in the Greek means lower forms of animal life, which would be including biological warfare. Once again, that's all Seal 4. 4 different pieces of Seal 4, 4 plagues, we'll call them. Seal 5 is martyrdom, and you haven't seen anything yet. Martyrdom will be much more horrific than you ever expected. Then Seal 6, we're talking about it. I like to cite the burning figs and the earthquake, but there's more to it. We're going to go through all of those right now. So let's go through the great earthquake, the sun black, and the full blood moon. So then I watched as he broke the 6th seal, and there was a great earthquake, megas seismos, and the Greek, and so it will be bigger than the San Francisco earthquake of 1906. It will be huge, horrifically huge. Then the sun turned black as sackcloth worn in mourning. So there is the aspect of something, let's say mourning in terms of death, because it's coming on the heels of the 4th seal with 1.8 billion people dying, and so the sun will be black at some point in time. It isn't right now. Then the full moon, it has to be on a full moon time frame. So you'll notice that. That would mean that the full moon would have to be blood red because it can't just be a partial moon. And the next full moon is April 8th, Passover. And so just watch every full moon after this. And if you see a blood red full moon, we're watching something like the 6th seal. So just keep that in mind. Then the stars fell from heaven to earth, just as a fig tree drops its untimely figs, which are the winter figs, which would be about now, late winter, early springtime. Those figs would not be a great fig, and so it has to cast them off by a strong wind, and that would resemble Sodom, Gomorrah, and Egypt. So that's when the figs fell from the skies, and Moses called them down, and well, God personally called them down for Sodom and Gomorrah. So keep that in mind. Those are the signs continuing on. Then the sky receded like a scroll being rolled up. So our magnetosphere protects us from UV, and it protects us from all sorts of debris, space debris. And it has been thinning quite significantly since 1880 to about 2000, it thinned 10%. Then since 2000, it's thinned another 5%, and it's thinning, I think it is 20% faster, 10% faster. It's thinning fast, okay? And that would be like a scroll, thinning. And it actually, this person is arguing that it would literally split like a scroll and open up and allow space debris to get through. And that's what I think NORAD is thinking about, that there's more debris coming through. So we have the Van Allen belts, and we have this protection built up by God. We also have a meteorite belt right outside that, and so you know, there's space debris out there, but it doesn't come through in most cases. But as the magnetosphere thins, things can get through. And if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's open at times. And there are these weird burps that occur where you'll be near the North Pole, and it'll just open up and allow all sorts of things through. So keep in mind that the North Pole is wobbling, and so and then keep in mind also that there are seasons. Now the scientists don't like to claim this, but the deepest earthquakes seem to be seasonal, but we can't prove that yet. So that's an article from New Scientist, and they don't like to cite this, but solar tidal forces may provide the nudge needed to trigger a deep earthquake. That means that the earthquake nucleation process is very sensitive to a small stress perturbations. Whoever Zahn is, says, as early as the 1930s, geologists claim to have found a seasonal trend in earthquake activity. Often as decades pass and new data comes to light, the correlations weaken, as Cliff Froelich from the University of Texas at Austin says. So this is from a friend of mine. This is his little report that you'll see an increase from March, April, and then a decrease after June each year, and then it picks up again in August through September, and then weakens by December. So we are in a season right now for the northern hemisphere to have larger earthquakes and larger aftershocks. And so it's based on heat, you know. It's heat. He says heat discharge ends with overrun, overrun of soil. Temperatures, energy conservation begins due to increased solar energy due to axial tilt. Interesting. So it just increases and it decreases, and the pressure increases and the plates expand and destabilize. So just keep that in mind. These are the trends over the years from 2015 to recent. So let's continue on with Revelation 6 and get to verse 15. Then the earth's kings, the rulers, the generals, the rich and the mighty, indeed everyone, slave and free, hid himself in caves and among the rocks and the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, hide us, and hide us from the face of the one sitting on the throne, and from the fury of the Lamb, and from the great day of the furious coming, who can stand? So if you were a rich person, or you were NORAD, and you knew something was coming like this, would you really want to go underground based on the Bible saying, this isn't going to work out? It's going to be your rock casket, a deep one. And so you may have $1 billion place underground, and you think you're going to get away with it, but you're not. Once these earthquakes kick off and the seismic activity kicks off, you're going to die down there. It'll be your big, deep rock casket. So now we're going to go through some other verses that match with this. So we have Isaiah 13, Isaiah 24, Isaiah 34, and then we also have something from Joel. So let's just run through the verses and see what you think of them. They come from a distant land, from beyond the horizon. It's Adonai, with the weapons of his rage, to lay waste to all the earth. Howl, for the day of Adonai, the day of the Lord, is at hand. Destruction coming from Shaddai. And that would be like he's all-sufficient one, okay? This is why every arm will hang limp and everyone's courage melt away. They will be gripped by panic, seized with pain and agony, writhing like a woman in labor, okay? Birth pangs, looking aghast at each other, faces aflame. That's Isaiah 13. Continuing on in Isaiah 13, here comes the day of Adonai, full of cruelty, rage, and hot fury, to desolate the earth and destroy the sinners in it. For the stars, the constellations in the sky will no longer give their light. The sun will be dark when it rises, and the moon will no longer shine. I will punish the world for its evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. I will end the arrogance of the proud, and humble the insolence of tyrants. I will make humans rarer than gold. That's horrific, guys. Scarcer than Ophir's pure gold. And finishing out Isaiah 13, this is why I make the heavens tremble, and the earth will be shaken from its place at the wrath of Adonai Tezvaot. That's like a warrior, our God as a warrior, on the day of his fierce anger. Then, like a hunted gazelle, like sheep with no one to gather them, everyone will head back to his own people. Everyone will flee to his own land. Anyone found will be pierced through. Anyone caught will fall by the sword. Now we head on to, this is the mini-apocalypse, mini version of Revelation from Isaiah 24 through 27, but this is from 24. Terror, pit, and trap are upon you, you who are living on the earth. He who flees at the sound of terror will fall into the pit. He who climbs up out of the pit will be caught in the trap. For the windows of above have been opened, that's the magnetosphere, and the earth's foundations shake, that's seismic activity. There is cracks and breaks open, the earth crumbles to pieces, the earth trembles and totters, the earth staggers to and fro like a drunk, sways back and forth like a watchman's sukkah. That would be a temporary shelter that we would have during the time of Sukkot. Its transgression weighs heavy upon it, and will fall and not rise again. Continuing on in Isaiah 24, when that day comes, Adonai will punish the armies of the high. That's of Hamaron. That is the area just like the second earth, okay? Just a second heaven, rather. Heaven on high in the Marom. And so he's saying that these are the leaders in that second heaven. These are the fallen angels, I argue. and the kings of the earth on the earth, and they will be assembled like prisoners in a dungeon and shut up in prison to be punished many years, when the moon will be confused and the sun ashamed, for Adonai Tezvaot will rule on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem with his glory manifest to the rulers of his people. Continuing on, now Isaiah 34. The heavens will be rolled up like the scroll, for Adonai is angry at every nation, furious with all their armies. He has completely destroyed them, handed them over to slaughter. Their slain will be thrown out. The stench will rise from their corpses. The mountains will flow with their blood. That's a picture of Isaiah 63. The whole host of heaven will decompose. The heavens themselves will be rolled up like a scroll. All their array will wither away like a withering grape leaf that falls from a vine, or withered fig, there's the fig talk, from a fig tree. For my sword has drunk its fill in heaven. Now it descends on Edom. Edom is really the people that kept on mocking and killing the Jews every time things went badly for them. So when God would punish them, Edom would say, ha 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 ha. So to judge Edom, the people I have doomed to destruction. Continuing on with Isaiah 34, there is a sword that belongs to Adonai. It is filled with blood, gorged with fat, filled with the blood of lambs and goats, gorged with the fat of kidneys of rams. For Adonai has a sacrifice in Botzrah, that's an area in Edom, a great slaughter in the land of Edom. The wild oxen will fall with them, the young bulls with the strong, mature ones. Their land will be drunk with the blood, and their dust made greasy with fat. For Adonai has a day of vengeance, a year of requital for fighting with Zion. That's Isaiah 34, and it's once again reminiscent of who is this coming out of Edom, with his blood garments soaked in blood. And so that's Isaiah 63. So keep that in mind. Then Joel 2. I have to cite that. I just love Joel. And after this, I will pour out my spirit on all humanity. Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your old men will dream dreams, and your young men will see visions. And also on my male and female slaves in those days I will pour out my spirit. I will show wonders in the sky and on earth, blood, fire, and columns of smoke. The sun will be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the coming of the great and terrible day of Adonai. So, we have meteorites all the time. We have, the Pupid, the Aquarid, the Lyrid. We have Normid. Normid is right about now. So we have meteor showers all the time. So just get used to it, okay? But maybe there's more coming this time. I don't know. Maybe the military knows that. So once again, why is NORAD going underground right now? Is it a great earthquake? No, they wouldn't know. Is it because the sun turned black as sackcloth? Nope, that's not it. Because it hasn't, and it probably won't. Is it the full moon becoming blood red? No, it's happened many times in my lifetime, and we thought it was pretty. The stars fell from heaven to earth. That could be a reason. That could be a reason. Sodom, Gomorrah, and Egypt. Yeah, that could be a reason. The sky receding like a scroll being rolled up. Oh yeah, that would drive them underground. And then they would hide themselves in caves and among the rocks of the mountains. So NORAD is going underground because these things could be happening. I'm not saying that they will, but NORAD is going underground, and it's just interesting to see the sixth seal signs. So we're passing through a meteorite phase. And so the U.S. residents watch as an asteroid hits Earth and creates a bright fireball event. This is from March 25th. And they spotted this bright fireball. It was a small asteroid colliding with the Earth. This was buried on one of the last pages, and I can't even remember my source for it, but it doesn't matter. They just didn't talk much about this. But NASA didn't say, hey, here comes another asteroid or anything like that. It just happened. It appeared brightly in the sky, and then it crashed, and nothing was reported about it even. So NASA didn't give you a warning, okay? Then here's another one. This is very interesting. This one did some damage. So this is an asteroid from Nigeria, and NASA said Earth will not be affected. Well, then right after that, it blew this huge hole, and it took out tons of buildings. I don't think it killed anybody, but it took over 100 houses out in Akure, Nigeria. So NASA didn't say anything. They noticed that they called this asteroid 2012 XA-133 was set to pass Earth. Then it crashed at 53,000 miles per hour. However, NASA said the Earth will not be affected. It was going to be close. That's pretty close, guys. And so just keep in mind that there will be another full moon coming up on Passover time frame, Wednesday, April 8th. And it would be interesting if we saw some of these signs. So this is interesting. I just wanted to cite this that loners help society survive. And loners read the Bibles, people, okay? There's nothing popular about reading your Bible, but just keep it in mind. Some of us are kind of loners. So this Princeton theoretical ecologist, yeah, she Tarnita, says that she tackles everything with mathematical models, trying to solve these puzzles. And so, what if having some loners stay out of the tower is not just a mistake? What if it's actually part of the strategy of this organism to make sure that we survive? And so, loners hung back and therefore serve as better hedging strategies. Um, Maybe we aren't as social, but it makes us less vulnerable to the threats that the collective face. And so just keep that in mind. Keep on reading your Bibles, keep on praying. It's kind of a loner type of a thing to do, but it may keep you alive during these time frames. So that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for your time. Be blessed, and we'll talk to you later on. And stay inside, people. Stay away from the COVID-19 virus. God bless. Bye bye.